Let's just switch gears and talk luxury yachts and tech for luxury yachts. VEEM is the maker of some of the equipment that's used in those machines, and the company's shares are on an absolute tear today after delivering a year's worth of orders, to get this, in the first 6 weeks of the financial year, and that's quite the achievement given the pandemic. The Managing Director of VEEM, Mark Miocevich, joins us now live from Perth. So, welcome to the program. Great to have you here. I'm not going to pretend that I already knew what gyrostabilizers were prior to doing a bit of reading for this interview, but it appears as if there's quite the appetite for them right now. So tell us briefly what's special about a VEEM gyrostabilizer, and why are you selling so many right now?
It turns out that there aren't any gyrostabilizers for big boats out in the marketplace. It's a technology that was tried back in the 1920s and then abandoned because they couldn't control it properly. It's basically a big spinning flywheel that runs inside the vessel. As the vessel tries to roll, the gyroscope processes and produces a counteractive torque by the laws of nature. But nowadays we have computer algorithms, which means that we can control these gyroscopes and make them work very well. And for luxury vessels, it means they simply don't roll anywhere near as much. So people aren't seasick and they can really enjoy their time on the water. So I guess the technology is replacing, which was their traditional use, of stabilizer, which didn't work very well. So gyrostabilizers, they work very well right across the entire operating range of the vessel.
Okay, so why selling them now? I mean, why are you getting these orders coming through? We're in the midst of a pandemic. There's lots of economic uncertainty out there. How are they finding you and your technology?
Well, super yachts tend to work on longer build cycles, and the very wealthy of the world are still very wealthy.
Wealthier.
So their programs continue on unabated. What we're finding though is it's a new technology, and it's taken us probably the best part of 4 years to introduce a technology to this bigger end of the market. There has been some smaller units around for a little longer than our product, but of course you've got to convince people on these multi-million-dollar projects that they should invest in a gyro without knowing what the technology is. So it takes time as a gestation and a confidence building program, and now we're seeing that people are comfortable, the first units are working very well, so we see this as a natural rise in the interest and sales of the units.
Mark, outside of gyros, when it comes to other contract wins, I know you've done some work with Austal when it comes to the defence space. What's happening in other parts of the business at the moment?
The defence space is quite interesting. There's been a significant change in the government on supporting local business, which is very important, and we've been a defence contractor for 30 years, and I think it's a very welcome to move. Having local content in defence projects gives you that issue of an independence in bad times. You can still run your vessels and manufacture components in country. Previously it hasn't been considered to be as important. It certainly is now, and that's looking very good for companies like us.
I'm curious, Mark, what is it that would stop some other company from coming along and manufacturing these gyrostabilizers and really being some serious competition for VEEM?
Well, there's a number of things. One of them is that there's an initial investment in the technology, and we're up to about $20 million now. There's also the technology itself, that we've mastered the control systems and have patented algorithms. We have patented oiling systems for lubrication. Gyrostabilizers have unique technical problems that have to be resolved to be able to be successful in the vessel.
Mark, I'm intrigued on the cost side of things. Now, we discussed obviously so many of the companies out there at the moment have been hit by the pandemic, seeing revenues decline. A lot have received JobKeeper. I was just wondering whether you've received JobKeeper and whether you've got a total there as to how much you've benefited so far from that particular payment.
We did in fact receive JobKeeper. We were quite fortunate to have that support, and it was rather unique that our local business was affected, the Australian business was affected a little bit in April and early May, but we're seeing it now coming back and it's largely returning. But it has been significant. A company of 200 people there's a JobKeeper payments of around $500,000 a month.
The order's locked in, looking pretty good. You've got to have your sights set on something else. So what comes next for VEEM?
Well, the market is so large for gyrostabilizers. There's something like there is a market for us. If every super yacht in the world that was being built bought a gyrostabilizer off VEEM, we'd sell $274 million worth. So I think VEEM sees an incredibly large market for gyrostabilizers, and we see this as the stabilisation of the future. So that, along with our world-leading propeller technology, we've got more than enough to chew on for the next decade or two.
Mark, just to go and finish up, we know you've got your results coming up at the end of this month. Do you think you'll be able to be in position to provide guidance for FY21 on that date?
Look, they're still being finalised at the moment. Obviously, the slower last quarter changed things a little, but we're comfortable with where we are. And of course, this year with all these new orders, it means that we're going to have a much better year this year than last year, and it'll continue on from here. So we're pretty excited about the future at the moment. And
just a final question, just to clarify, so this is all being manufactured locally in Perth, is it?
It's partially manufactured locally. We operate a global supply program, very similar to the other large marine manufacturers, to enable us to give us some protection against the Australian dollar fluctuations. But it's all designed in Australia. The critical parts are all manufactured in Australia, and then we export around the world.
All right. Well, Mark, it's been wonderful of you to join us. We really appreciate your time and getting a bit of insight into VEEM, and I now know what a gyrostabilizer is.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.